Hi, hi everybody. This is Saoirse with Pagan Pages, and today I am reviewing American Brujeria. This is a very good book by J. Allen Cross, and let's talk about it a little bit. It's it's published by Weiser Books, and it just came out. This is a 2021 copyright, so this is brand new off the press, and I just love the art on there. This is a picture of the author right here, and I'm going to read his bio to you before we get started about the contents of the book. About the author. J. Allen Cross is a practicing witch of Mexican, Native American, and European descent whose craft was shaped by his Catholic upbringing and mixed family culture. Some of us can relate to that, can't we? Living in his home state of Oregon, he works as a psychic medium and occult specialist for a well-known paranormal investigation team out of the Portland metropolitan area. Now, one thing that I've heard about Portland, it is a very diverse and liberal, wonderful area. So, anything that comes out of Portland is going to be fabulous. When he's not investigating, he enjoys providing spells and potions to his local community, exploring haunted and abandoned places, consulting for other workers and investigators, and of course, writing about witchcraft and folk magic. Find him on Instagram at Oregon_wood_witch. Now, before I delve into this, I went through this whole book, and those of us who have grown up Catholic, we don't realize that we're practicing magic using the teachings of the Catholic Church, but we really, really are. This is what some people would call a Christian witch book, not Christo-pagan, Christian witch. This book is not really pagan in any shape, size, or form. It talks about the ancestral traditions that came out of Mexico that were, of course, transitioned over to Christianity because of colonization, and how people took Catholicism and combined their folk practices with that, and how it is used today. His writing style is fluid and goes nicely. It's an easy read. There's not just an explanation of what this is, but there's also different kinds of spell work that you can do, and it's spelled out very easily. A conservative person who practices Catholicism is going to balk at the suggestion that you practice any form of witchcraft or magic. No, that's just spell work. That's just prayers. Well, sweetheart, prayer is a form of magic, which is a form of witchcraft. So, the title American Brujeria comes from the word bruja or brujo that people use, and depending on who's using that word is used differently. Bruja is female and brujo is masculine. So, you can use the words interchangeably if you want to, but bruja is just basically practicing folk magic. And some people, most especially according to him in this book, people in Mexico, if somebody identifies themselves as a bruja or a brujo or witch, they will be afraid. But in America, we're embracing these traditions quite a lot. And it's really funny because the same people that will be afraid of somebody that calls themselves a witch will take an egg and use it for blessings, or set up blessed water someplace, or cross themselves with holy water. All of that is magical practice. And that's the simple magical practice that comes to us in this book. Um, so I'm going to read some excerpts from this book. This is chapter 3, La Virgin. Now, I don't speak Spanish, so I know my pronunciation is not going to be on. So feel free to critique that if you want to. In Mexican culture, we do things a little differently, and religion is no exception. Though the church has tried for centuries to get us to behave, we have always had a particular affinity for seeing between the lines, diving deep into the many mysteries, and coming back with something most people would call magic. Most of us claim to be good Catholics, and for most folks, this is correct. Still, others reject Catholicism and will instead call themselves Guadalapanos are people who follow the teaching and veneration of La Virgen de Guadalupe, or simply Guadalupe for short. This is a unique spirit known by many names: Virgin Mary, Queen of Heaven, Mother of God, La Madonna, and Tonantzin. Now, I personally was able to establish communication with Goddess Tonantzin when I painted her, and somebody who I know ended up with that painting. What happened is there was an appearance of the Virgin of Guadalupe someplace, and a couple of other people picked up on it, and so that became a thing. And now people will just pray to the Virgin of Guadalupe, which a lot of us believe to just be the goddess Tonantzin, who predated Christianity and was there for generations before Europeans came over. She is a goddess of life. She is a corn goddess, and snakes are sacred to her. Whereas the interesting thing in Christian culture, the snake represents Satan, and that's a bad thing. But the serpent was sacred to the ancient Mexicans. So there's a bit about it on her. Now, one of the simple spells, he has some chapters that go through different kinds of prayers to do, and he talks all about praying the rosary, which I had to learn going to school. So there's a little chart in the book here that explains the rosary, and then he goes in depth explaining what each section represents. And then he even has some spell work to use on the rosary. One is a 4 rosary spell for protection. This spell is designed to protect your home from evil by entangling El Diablo, or the devil, in your prayers every time he or any of his minions attempt to come close. You'll need 4 rosaries, all used at once, 1 white candle, and holy water, which that's available at any church. Begin by gathering all 4 rosaries into your hands and praying the Deus te Salve 3 times, which he has instructions for in there. Take the white candle, carve the sign of the cross into it, and pray the Deus te Salve over it. Affix it to a place or set it in a candle holder and light it. Gather the rosaries together around the base of the candle and sprinkle them with holy water, praying the Deus te Salve over them. Once the candle has burned down, take the rosaries and hang them at the 4 corners of your home with a prayer. Once a month, repeat this ritual to keep them active and working. How simple is that? He goes through talking about what colors stand for. He says that pink is for friendship, love, romance, relationship, and healing. He goes through different kinds of candles. These are things that you find at your regular American metaphysical stores, like the Tapaboca or the Shut Up candles. You can find those. You can find the double action reversal candles, the Just Judge candles, and he's got all that listed. How to fix novena prayers, how to burn special kinds of candles, and what it means if the smoke burns a certain color when it's coming from the candle. This is just a really, really wonderful book. He talks about cleansings, how to get rid of curses. He talks about Santa Muerte, Saint Death, which is a very big deal. I can't delve into it completely here. And he talks about relationships with the saints. Now, when I was growing up, the Protestants used to accuse us of not worshiping that God, but worshiping the saints as gods instead. And the icons or the images of them were considered to be idols. They were not. Saints are to Catholics and to other people who have saints, they're just great people who act as an influence, and you ask them to talk to God for you, and you ask them to influence you with their good ways, kind of like a mentor. And he talks all about that in this book. He also talks about, here's another charm that I'm going to read about. These charms are so simple and so effective, you're going to wonder why you didn't do things like this before. An old boot. I also ran across a staggering number of magical uses for old boots or shoes. I think this must be a carryover from Europe, where they are frequently used for protection and fertility. Old boots are often placed outside the front door and on walls as a sort of decoy charm. The worn boots carry the scent of a human, which attracts negative spirits looking for someone to harm. Once they go inside the boot, it says they're able to get out because they can't move in reverse. Isn't that exciting? Now, another thing that he says in this book, anybody, whether they are Mexican or Mexican American, can use the things in this book and can practice. But one thing that he does talk about that is a big deal that we have to really watch out for, most especially as white people, is cultural appropriation. And he said that is just a horrible issue. You can go, you can practice, you can even be initiated into some of these traditions. But he said, do not take up space in the Mexican or the Mexican American community if you are not one or the other, because there are some things we can be welcome as friends, but we are not Mexican. We are not Mexican American. The spirits and saints and the deities who are venerated, spoken to, prayed to, and consulted in this tradition, they don't discriminate. But at the same time, you can practice these things as a person of any race, nationality, or culture. You just cannot say that you are Mexican. So you can be a witch and use some of the things that this tradition talks about and go in any store and they'll sell you these things, but you are not a bruja or a brujera or a brujo unless you are Mexican or of Mexican descent. But I do recommend this very nice book. It's an easy read. It does have, how many pages does it have? This has, there's 209 pages listed, but then there's 212, 212 pages listed, and then there's the about the author and something to our readers. Now, Red Rail Wiser has a little message to you at the end of their book. Our readers are our most important resource, and we appreciate your input, suggestions, and ideas about what you would like to see published. I have seen other metaphysical books by this publishing house, and you can find them on their website at redwheelwiser.com, and you can sign up to get on their newsletter. This can be found on Amazon.com, of course, for a very good price. This is listed as $18.95 on the back of this, so you're not going to spend a ton of money for such a good book, and I do highly recommend it. So until the next book review, this has been Saoirse with Pagan Pages. Be blessed and blessed be.